Welcome, people of the interwebs, it's me, Callum, and today I have a very special guest for me. His name is Gavin. He is known as the voice of Kenny from The Walking Dead, and he is here with me today.
Hi!
So,
it's true. I am.
Gavin, how are you today?
I'm well, Colin. How are you?
I am very good, thank you. So, I guess to start things off, we should start with the questions. And I guess the first question is, well, tell us a story about yourself and how you became to doing what you are today.
So I used to be in a band. I was the drummer for a punk ska band in the 1990s called Dance Hall Crashers. We played in the UK a few times. We played at Reading. We played a lot of them festivals y'all got out there in Europe. And once the band kind of stopped playing so much in 2000, I was looking for some other way to not have a real job, and working in construction, which is very much a real job. I listened to a radio program from a woman that founded Voice Tracks, Samantha Paris, Voice Tracks in Sausalito, which is just north of San Francisco, which was a voiceover academy. And I was like, I always enjoyed cartoons and doing silly voices and watching The Simpsons, and I just checked it out. And I didn't really know people could do that for a living. And over the next few years, I got signed with an agent and started working, and then eventually started doing it for a living. And I've never been happier. It's the best job in the world.
I can only imagine just making voices and getting paid for it, because that sounds so much fun.
It is for the most part. I mean, there are plenty of jobs that are not very much fun, you know, where you're more of a turd polisher than performing and being a character or doing anything cool like that. But, you know, those are things that pay the bills, and I enjoy all that. I really like, you know, even medical narration for pharmaceutical companies, which is painful in a lot of ways, or non-speech stuff like we were talking about, like The Sims or something like that, which is really challenging. I mean, it's still, that stuff is cool, and those kind of challenges are extra interesting to me just because it's not as straightforward. It's something you've really got to embrace and wrap your head around.
But it's a good way to sort of like get out of yourself and be someone else.
Oh, God,
in the
yes.
vocal terms.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, not even in vocal terms. I mean, you really do get to, tap into things that, you know, are inside you that you may not want to embrace. You know, Kenny certainly had moments that I had to tap into personal hardship or just sort of jerkiness, and, you know, getting to play like a villain or something and really just kind of being evil or saying something horrible or doing something horrible, you know, in a game. It's fun and interesting, you know, and you really do get to be not yourself. You still have to pull from yourself. So it's fun. It's a very cathartic process, I guess. It can be. But when The Wolf Among Us came up, when I had to, there's a couple horrible scenes in there too, and I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. I'm Bigby. It doesn't matter. I'm gonna tear an arm off. Sure.
well, it's just another day in the office. It's fine. It's nothing serious.
Exactly.
All right, then. Next question is, did you have any form of inspiration? If so, where from?
Oh, for Kenny?
Or for any character, for that matter.
Well, yeah, there's always inspiration depending on what it is you're trying to do. And it's bringing your own personal baggage to whatever the role is to try to get it across, you know, with your voice. For Kenny, the biggest inspiration that I'd had is a few years prior, when my oldest son was very, very young. I probably, in a sort of really poor choice of reading material, read The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And the man in that, which I guess they made a movie out of it, but I didn't see it. But the man, it's a story about a man and his son who's probably 12 or so, maybe sort of preteen, maybe even teenage. And it's post-apocalypse, and they're pushing a shopping cart, you know, across the country, trying to basically get to the shore, get a boat just to escape whatever the sort of apocalypse was. And I just sort of reading that book, especially when my son was young, because it's not a happy story. I mean, it doesn't end unhappy, but it's tough. And that was kind of where I was coming from. And I just kind of looked at the part and saw the family man, of that was Kenny, and just thought of that guy maybe 6 months before, his wife hadn't died yet, and it was, him and his son. And that's kind of where I was coming from. Just the anything to survive, and you'll make friends, you'll make enemies, whatever it takes. You just got to get through it and make sure everybody gets through it, and so that's kind of where I was coming from. And it was, they said he was from Florida and maybe had a Southern accent. And I was like, yes, anytime I have the opportunity to do a Southern accent, I will gladly do it. Usually it's just sort of getting a voice and then performing in the voice. Not all sort of voiceover parts or character parts that we get are really something, or you embrace it quite that much. Like the Telltale characters are very, very thought out, and they go through such an emotional range that, it's important to have a character. A lot of games voiceover these days, is getting that way, where you really do have to have a performance, and it has to be a character that people will know and will follow start to finish, as opposed to just playing, like a player character or something like that, where it's more of just utterances and catchphrases and stuff like that. Those are a lot of fun too, but I don't feel like I've got to really connect as hard, because you're not saying as much, and you're not covering the emotional range that, like with Ken. I mean, I'd never done anything that had to cover that kind of emotional range, in a game. It was just, for me, a very new experience and a wonderful experience. It was great.
Kenny was just one of the few characters that made me cry next to Clementine and Lee.
And that's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
To have that effect on gamers, especially gamers, we're such a jaded group, where it's like, God, skip the dialogue. I don't need to hear any of this. Give me the better gun, So to hear people actually be emotionally attached and moved by, something that we were doing is just an honor. It makes me feel great, because I as a gamer myself, I've played games all my life, which is quite a long time now, and it's just something that really, to have that connection is a rarity in a game where you get moved. I don't think I've ever been moved to that extent in a game. So it's really cool to be a part of that.
It is definitely one of those games that you need to play from start to finish when all episodes are out, because you do because obviously you're taking control of these characters, you're making the decisions. You screw up, then you've got to live with it.
You do. Yeah. I mean, there are consequences to it, which is cool. And it's, I love the way that they play out. I mean, they make the recording process somewhat interesting. I mean, they recently sent me a script for the next episode of The Wolf Among Us. And just sort of reading through the script, it's like, the first 20 pages, I'm like, God, I haven't even gotten halfway through the first scene with all these dialogue options. But it's funny. I mean, that's the way the sessions would just get progressively longer. And like Walking Dead, by the time we got to like episode 4 and episode 5, it was just like the line counts were just getting crazy, because it was like, if you had done this and if you had done that, then you would get this response. But if you hadn't, you would get that response, and it was like Kenny would hate you, and he would have, and I would have to adjust, because it's like, okay, you hate Lee because he didn't feed Duck. So, you got to tell him he's not getting on your boat, and you care what happens to him, and it's kind of like, oh, okay. So we would keep having to shift, it's like, no, Lee's your friend now. You're friends with Lee. Oh, okay, cool. And just the way that we would have to approach it was challenging, but that's part of the fun, is to make that all work. It's not going to work if it's all flat and all kind of in the same spot. It'd
be like one of those hidden messages in the game of just Kenny saying, a couple of scenes ago, I hated you, Lee, but now we're best friends, so we're all good.
yeah, yep, pretty much. I used to hate you, but not anymore.
Just give him a good
now
old
you're
pat on
okay.
the back.
Exactly. But you fed the kid. You took care of the boy. Yeah.
Next question is, did you watch any cartoons, for example, Looney Tunes, Rocky and Bullwinkle, Captain Caveman, etc.? And did you impersonate those voices when you were little?
I'm sure I tried to do the Captain Caveman or whatever it is quite a few times, because I did watch Captain Caveman. I'm not old enough for Rocky and Bullwinkle. Thank you very much. But but Looney Tunes were always in syndication. So I did grow up on, the old special Chuck Jones Looney Tunes, which are magical. And I remember when I found out that, virtually all the male voices were Mel Blanc, it blew me away because I had all these different characters. And when I was a kid, there was a theme park, like not an amusement park, but like with roller coasters in Northern California called Great America that was, affiliated with, Warner Brothers. So it's like all of those characters would be there, when you would go. There'd be Foghorn Leghorn, Elmer Fudd, they'd all be walking around and stuff like that. And it blew me away that those characters were all the same guy. And I remember reading voice characterizations by Mel Blanc, and it's like, I didn't really know what it meant. But I watched those religiously, and I'm sure I was doing, making those voices, and I talked a lot when I was a kid. When I was like 4, I knew what obnoxious meant. So that's a little testament to my level of obnoxiousness. But and then I always kind of still watched cartoons, throughout high school and whatnot. And I watched, Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab in the 90s. And I always watched The Simpsons. And I used to sit around and watch The Simpsons in syndication. I would record it every day. And then when I would just sit and watch videotapes of The Simpsons for hours. Then this was before I had any real desire or knowledge of voice acting or what the people do. But I mean, I knew that was like 3 guys doing, 90% of the voices on the show. And, I would try to, emulate those voices and stuff. And I mean, I was always into it, and it just was turning the gear to actually get my brain to sort of say, yeah, you should try to do this. And I'm really glad I did. But I always loved cartoons, and I still do. I love watching the cartoons that my kids now watch, like Phineas and Ferb and Gravity Falls and, Adventure Time.
Well, it's just such a good thing that you don't have to do multiple types of British English. Like, 'cause we've gone through Shakespeare, we've gone through
sure.
A-class English of top, tally-ho,
cheerio,
whatnot.
Pip, pip.
Yeah, cheerio.
Hey, what? Yeah. No, I don't. And when I do, and I don't, I get asked to do British accents, and I do them from time to time. There's one at least, maybe 2 in The Wolf Among Us, and I don't pretend to do them well, but they do hire me to do them. So I apologize in advance if they're terrible. So,
well, if there's any time that I am speaking to someone that lives in the States, they do try and do a British accent, but it's like I said, they do the British accent that's from probably the 19th century of tea and scones.
Hey, governor. What?
Yeah, there you go.
Where are
hey,
you
governor.
going? Yeah, that sort of thing.
I think
yeah,
we don't say that anymore.
Yeah, no, you guys don't.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
All right, next question is, what tips do you have for those who want to be a voice actor?
Listen. Just listen to everything around you, because there's examples of people that are working all around you. And some of the people that are working are not making a ton of money. Some of the people that are working are making a ton of money. So the trick is to find out what it is you do in relation to what it is you're hearing, and try to make sure that whatever you do is within the realm of what you're hearing, but is your own. I think the fundamental thing, too, that you kind of have to do in this business is take classes. You have to have somebody teach you how to approach copy, because I can't imagine anybody just sort of walking off the street, never having any experience doing it, being handed a piece of promo copy and going into a recording studio and just knocking it out and doing something convincing. Just because the scripts look weird, and different scripts look especially weird depending on what kind of stuff you're reading. It's important to take classes so that you can see what different scripts look like, so you know what you're getting into, and to just learn as much about it as possible. You can do it on your own, but I think that having an education and having a background is extremely important. But, it's a double-edged sword. There's sort of caveats with that is there are a lot of people trying to make a living off you trying to make a living. There are plenty of people out there that are just teaching. They're not necessarily working. I don't know. But there are a lot of people who want to, make money teaching this sort of thing. I'm sure it's true in anything at all. So it's finding a good teacher that you really feel like is giving you constructive feedback that's helping you get better to hone your craft. But, there's lots of examples everywhere you go. You can pretty much can't walk outside or turn on the TV without hearing voiceover. And it's just listening to it and kind of figuring out what that actor is doing and how to emulate it or how to make it
Well, there you go, people. Follow those steps and you will become a successful voice actor.
God, if only it were that easy. No, I mean...
Yeah, I imagine so.
That's how to learn, but I mean, in terms of working, it's a tremendous amount of luck, and just, I always try to do good business. I try to be fast and efficient, and if I can get it done in one session instead of trying to milk it for 2 sessions, clients always appreciate you saving them money, trying to just be on the ball, get your job done, show up without needing anything from anybody, not need to take a bunch of breaks, just sort of being ready and prepared and professional, goes a huge long way, because it's all about having a client base and having people that want to hire you again. If you go and you work for somebody and they never want to hire you again, it's repeat business is not going to come your way. And repeat business is, probably 80% of my work is I'm working with somebody that I've worked with, a dozen times before. Thank God they continue to hire me. So.
Right, then we now have questions from, other people other than me, and I apologize if I pronounce them wrong, but it also gives us a reason to laugh at them as well. As the first one is The Great Duck 1990.
Right on.
Which asks, have you played the games you voiced for example, The Walking Dead Season 1?
So I have played the second episode. That was part of a playthrough at Dennis's house. I played the third episode on the Twitch TV playthrough. I know what happens. I played the first episode until we got to Herschel's farm, which introduces a particular character, and that kind of pulled me right out of it. I have played The Wolf Among Us, and I enjoyed that quite a bit, aside from my parts. But I generally have a really difficult time playing a game I work on because I'm enjoying it. I'm kind of in the moment. It's all kind of going good. It's cool. And then I show up and it's just like, and the brakes just get put on and it's no longer much fun for me.
Where's the skip button?
Yeah, exactly. Why do I have to listen to this? But if it's just sort of incidental stuff, that's one thing. But it's hard for me. It just pulls me right out, and it makes me sort of, makes me question my choices. Makes me question why I was doing something that way. Why didn't they use another take? Oh, why didn't I do this? It's just it's hard. It's weird, and it's difficult for me to suspend belief in order to just, kind of enjoy the game. And I think so much of gaming is that suspension of belief where you just kind of get in there and it's just like, I'm loving this. This is great. I'm having a great time and it's totally taking me someplace else, like Grand Theft Auto does, But I mean, if I were one of those principal guys, I'm sure I'd be like, oh man, it just kind of like all of a sudden just pulls right out. So for me, I just can't so much. I try, but I play other things instead.
There's always those moments, especially at my age, where it's like, well, you come out of an exam or a test, or you've just been in an argument, and as soon as you walk away, or as soon as you're finished, you think of something, and you're like, bugger, why didn't I
should have said this.
Yeah, I should have done that. And
no, exactly. Why didn't I do it like this? I'm hearing it in context. Now that I'm hearing it in context, I wish I had done this. No, absolutely. And it's the same. It's the same for me. I mean, I listen to it and I'm like, oh man, boy, that's disappointing, or, oh God, I really thought that was going to sound different than it does. So hard for me to do it. I mean, just if someone came to you and said, do you want to be a principal character in Grand Theft Auto 5? I mean, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do that audition. And if they check your avail or ask you if you're interested in doing it, subject matter be damned. It's kind of like, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great career opportunity. If for no other
Yeah.
reason, then it's going to be a lot of recording sessions and mocap sessions. I don't know how long recorded and worked on it, but I mean, there is so much
Yeah.
dialogue that they probably recorded for a year at least, maybe more. I don't know how many sessions that would be, but it works out to be quite a lot. And I mean, that's a substantial amount of money you get paid generally per session. So that's Missoula in the bank.
Exactly. But I guess it was the same for you because you have so many alternative lines to say for Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, we would
And
still. I would still only work per episode. I'd work, maybe 5 hours per episode, and then I might have a 1 or 2 hour pickup session. But
yeah.
I'm efficient, and mine was the third highest line count. So I mean, it was like Lee would probably have 2 days of recording, and I know Dave is very efficient too. And I mean those. There's no mocap on those, so it's not quite as demanding in terms of the actual video. But I mean, generally, straight up voiceover sessions, you don't have a ton of sessions if there's not mocap. You might have 10 or something like that, which is a great amount of money. But the money in video games is not quite as substantial as if you get a great commercial job. You get a great commercial campaign and you might record for an hour or two and it'll be paying you for the next 2 years substantially, and it's just depends on the kind of work. But you don't necessarily do one or the other because it's just kind of what you prefer and what you're better at, what you excel at, and what you get hired to do. It's just the nature of the job. Especially in the Bay Area where you have to be able to, up here in San Francisco, where you have to be able to do lots of different things to work consistently. I've had toy jobs where I've been working on, different iterations of the same toy, since 2010, and this year I probably had I was pretty much booked almost every day between April and August on that toy. And that was for the localization and stuff like that. And I mean, I worked on it in January and I worked on it in February in sort of different capacities and stuff like that. So since 2010, I've basically been working about 6 months out of the year on that toy, so it's just, there are gigs that are like the gig of a lifetime where you at that gig and you're like, oh my God, this is the greatest. That gig also comes with, a 3-hour commute for me, that I have to go through rush hour, to get there in the morning. It's about 75 or 80 miles away from me through the worst corridors in the Bay Area, and I have to be there at 9 a.m., so there's the downside, but working every day is unheard of in this business. It's something that just doesn't happen very often. So I'm absolutely, kissing the ground that I get to do it. I'm incredibly lucky to get to do it, but it's not without its caveats.
Yeah, I imagine so. Well, actually, speaking about gigs, the next question is from Magical Tyrese. The question is, what was your first gig in the industry?
So the first job I ever had in voiceover was for an auto body repair shop up here in Northern California. It was a very kind of basic, like a jazz bass line sort of thing. And I'm like, if you damage your car, that sort of thing, that's a series of 30-second spots for an auto body repair shop. And I did, I think, a few more for them after that, which was cool, that my first client hired me again. I think the first game I ever worked on was called Kuon, which is like a creepy either Japanese or Chinese horror game of some kind. I don't know. I, of course, didn't play it, but yeah, I think those were the first, and that was way back in 2004. So
our next question is from Super LOL Player. I'm assuming that's a League of Legends thing, which is what announced projects can we see you in?
Announced projects. That's a tricky question, isn't it? Announced projects, you can see me in The Wolf Among Us. I play Beast. I play D and Dumb, although Dumb hasn't shown up. So maybe I only play D, and I play the Magic Mirror. I'm Grunts in Halo 4, Tomb Raider, the one that came out last year, Hitman Absolution, Dead Space 3, SimCity, and I'm several LoL champions. I'm Varus, Pantheon, Bloodlord Vlad, and other, other smaller games, smaller independent games or app games that honestly I'm not sure. I don't keep very good track. I'm really bad at that. I don't keep track, and I generally don't ask. Part of what I try to do and what I sort of believe is good business is I just show up and I do my job, and then I don't ask anybody for anything or request anything. So I never
Mm.
generally find out what it is. And in some capacities, I never find out what it is. Like they wouldn't tell me anyway. And that's just the way it goes. But those are announced things that are readily available. Where I would appear in those, I don't know. But at least like in The Wolf Among Us, I'm there. You'll hear at least a little of me.
And there's actually one game that I know that you were in, which was probably the first game I actually heard your voice, but I've only realised it until a couple of weeks ago. And it's also going to explain the reason why, you as an actor are on this channel, because it's Sonic the Hedgehog related, is the fact that you played King Arthur in Sonic and the Black Knight in 2008.
That's right. I did. That's true. I did do that. Another bad British accent, courtesy of me. Yeah, that's true. I was King Arthur in Sonic and the Black Knight. Was that any good? I obviously never played it.
Such a long time, so I can't give you an answer to that, unfortunately.
That was a fun session. So that I have this kind of, love-hate relationship with the guy who directed and did the casting on that, who I will not mention. If he's listening, he knows who he is. I showed up for that, and the first thing, and he would always kind of do this sort of thing to me. I showed up and he would be like, "You weren't my first choice, but the client liked you." I remember I had a session with him once on something else, and he at one point had to stop and say, "See, this is why you're not lead material." Like, while the clients are there in the session, he would have to stop to say these sort of things to me. So yeah, not my favorite guy to work for, but I don't believe he's directing or producing games anymore. If he is, I'm pretty much guaranteeing that he's never going to, hire me again, but he never really wanted to hire me in the first place. So I guess it's okay. But that was a lot of fun to work on. I was thrilled to be in a Sonic game because I grew up playing Sonic, on the Dreamcast and the Genesis, and whatever predated that, the Sega system with the cards. So I always really kind of enjoyed Sonic. So it was a thrill for me to be in it, even if I wasn't his first choice.
All right then. Next question is from Kitten Chaos 2603, which says, "Do you have any control on how you play the role of your characters?"
Yeah, I do. Or we do. In the sense that we still have to get it off the page. Some jobs you definitely have less control over depending on how much you're being micromanaged. But the best producers and the best directors have hired you because they want you to do it and want you to kind of do your thing with it, which Telltale, they really kind of let us do our thing with it. And I, throughout the audition process and whatnot, it really is your opportunity to show them what you're going to do with the character. When you get in the studio, the director may say, no, it needs to be like this because the context is wrong, or you're not yelling it, it's quiet, or something like that. So there's definitely, we get control, to a degree. But I mean, for me, I have to think, where I always try to keep in mind that I'm lending my voice to their character. So I'm not the character. So I don't get to get in there and go, "Yeah, but Kenny wouldn't say that, bro." It's kind of, I have to get in there and just sort of, okay, well, what would Kenny say? And then they say, "Okay, well, you can be like this or this or this." Okay, I will do that. And then you kind of do it within whatever the vision is. But like the toy that we were talking about before, I mean, that is something where a lot of that isn't even scripted, where I would have opportunities and they'd be like, "Okay, this is like a 10-second thing where you are changing from one personality to the next. So it's kind of orgasmic. It gets really big at the end and it has a big like climactic finish. Go." Like, okay, where I really it's all me or it's all whatever I'm going to bring to it. I mean, there might be like, well, what if you did like this or what if you did like, or, something strange like that, then there's ideas and stuff, but I still have to get it off the page. And I mean, that really is the job is even with commercial copy, medical narration, especially video games, it's taking words on paper and not making it sound like I'm reading words on paper. Whoever it is, whatever it is actually saying that thing. So definitely we get control because it's got to come out of our mouth. If we get too micromanaged, it hurts the game. And I mean, you can hear it when it's micromanaged, when it's like someone's really actively trying to get it. It just sounds flat, and there are moments friends of mine that have worked under conditions where they've been really over-directed, and then get criticized for their performance being flat. And it's like, it ain't the guy's fault. It's the behind the scenes, it's the circumstances, which we can never say. You can't come out there and be all, yeah, it sounded flat because all the douchebags who are directing me don't know what they're doing, and it's like, then you're never going to work for them again. It's a really sticky place to be in because we get the blame for it. Nobody's going to like find out who the director is or go after the director and say it was his fault because the direction was bad. They just blame the performer, which, is part of getting the praise for it being written well or performing it really well. It's like, all I did was say it, man. I said it. It's written really, really well. So as long as I say it and you believe it, my job's done. So it's tough because we are the voice box out there. But yeah, we get tons of control as long as they let us.
So our next question is from Little Blue 13, which
Sure.
is, how did you become the voice actors you are? The characters you are today. Did you audition yourself, or did
Always.
the companies come to you?
Nobody ever comes to me. If they do come to me, it's happened once or twice where I have not read for parts and I've read for other parts on a project. Because usually if it's a game, we'll get maybe 6 guys that we get to choose from. Sometimes be like, choose 2. Sometimes they'll be like, here's 15 guys, read as many as you think you're right for, which is like the big sort of, there's a big parenthetical sort of like that you think you're right for, meaning like, don't read everybody because you're not right for everybody, so you have to kind of pick and choose. And there have been a few times where I haven't read characters, and then I've had producers come back and say that we want you to read this. We didn't really hear what we wanted from anybody else. We would like to give it a try. And then still, I never book those, but they like it and they want you to, and it's nice to be thought of that they're thinking, oh, why didn't he read it? So that's nice. But no, we audition for everything, even with parts, like I was saying before, with like parts in games that you already booked and recorded on, but the game hadn't been developed and the game never really got produced and it never came out. So they're going to recast all the parts and you're getting to reread the parts you already had, and it's just the way it is. We pretty much always audition for something, unless you're a celebrity and, they're approaching you to be a lead in a game or something like that. You read for it. Celebrities, my understanding is that oftentimes it works. They will offer a part, and if they want the part, they take the part, and that's it. But doesn't work that way for us little guys. We got to read for everything. So I spend a lot of time in this little room that I'm in.
Right. Our next question is from, hey, what do you know? It's his username is CrazyTrevor27.
Uh-oh. It's one of those.
It's not Trevor related. The
Aw.
question is, I know. It's.
I want to answer questions about Trevor.
Well, the question is, what would you be doing if you weren't voice acting?
Oh, I would either be probably trying to play drums professionally, just because I had done that before, or I'd be working in construction. I'd be a lot less happy and I would be home a lot less. So I'm grateful that I'm doing what I'm doing.
That's all right then. Our next question is from the Manga Nut. Okay.
Yeah.
Have you only done voice acting for games, or have you also done dubbing for animes?
I believe I know I recorded for an anime. I don't know that I made the final cut of it, but I've never watched it and never sought it out. But it was for the Highlander. It was a Highlander anime, and I was cast as like the main villain, and I recorded it. Whether or not it's me, I don't know. But I don't see a lot of anime just because there aren't as many anime producers up here. Most of them seem to be down in LA, and I don't read for a lot of it. I'm not sure why, but it doesn't come up that much. But I've done a lot of dubbing for MMOs, coming from Korea, stuff like that, where it's,
Yeah.
recorded in Korean and then you've got a dub to fit the parts. So I've done a fair amount of that, but I do mostly video games, interactive toys, and commercial work. So, and some narration and stuff. It just kind of depends on what's coming up this week.
That's all right then. Next question is from Zombie Keeper. Have you? I know, Walking Dead related.
Hey,
And the question is Walking Dead related.
good.
Essentially, the question is, have you met the other voice actors on the same project you've worked on, like Dave Fennoy
Yes.
from The Walking Dead?
Yes. Dave Fennoy and I spent like a lost weekend in Nashville, Tennessee at a convention, which was a blast. Yeah, no, I've met Dave several times and consider him a friend. I could probably call him on his cell phone. I don't know that I would, but I certainly could. No, he's a wonderful guy, super nice, has been really remarkably cool to all of us because, he's a big deal. He's been in tons of stuff, tons of animation, and he's very successful down in LA. And really treats us all really well and speaks really highly of the cast every chance he gets, which is awesome. Super nice guy. And then I'm great friends with Melissa Hutchison. She's one of my best friends. As well as Nikki Rapp, who plays Lily, ironically enough. And I'm great friends with Adam Harrington, one of the St. John brothers, and Brian Summer, the other St. John's brother, and Owen Thomas, who's Omid. Yeah, we're pretty tight knit up here in the Bay Area. We're friendly, Carly too, who's Nick Vigil. We're just, we're kind of pals. And we like to go out, we try to go out once a month, every few months and get beers because we can't complain about our job to anybody but other voice actors. It's like I can't complain to my wife about my job. She's like, you worked like 4 hours this week. And it's like, yeah, it's true. I only worked 4 hours this week. But we can't complain to each other, like God, it made me read. I had to be there for like an hour and 15 minutes. It is something that we can really kind of relate with each other. So, and we are fairly close and friendly, which is awesome. Adam lives pretty close to me, actually.
It's good to know that a job also brings a social life and good friends.
It really does. It really does, because especially it's supposed to be so competitive and we're always kind of at each other's, like trying to steal each other's lunch, but we're really me up here, we don't get that worked up with each other. Somebody gets a job and it's like good for them, and
Yeah.
somebody doesn't get a job and it's like, I'm sorry, man, but it's a hard job to work in, and it can be really frustrating because, when it gets slow, it gets really slow. And when we're not working, we're not making anything, we're still auditioning and stuff. And all of that is time that we have to do every day that we're never paid for. And so it's just something that you kind of always are having to put money and time and work into things, whether you're seeing any money back or not. So it can be a really stressful gig. So it's nice to have friends and we can, recommend each other. Just be all, you should just call Adam for this because it's going to be much better. Don't bother with me. So we look out for each other.
That's all. That's good then. That's good to hear. Our next question is from Azuralize, which is, was there anything you did before filming to get into the part of Kenny?
Not really. I just read the audition script, and the script had a ton of range in it, which was awesome. And I just, my MO with Telltale projects is always try to put as much emotion and energy into the auditions as possible. Like to have a lot of high moments and a lot of low moments, so there's a lot of range. And I didn't really do anything special. I mean, we auditioned for it, and then there was another round of casting for parts that we had maybe before. Ken wasn't one of them, but I had no idea that I had gotten the role. So I just was like, oh, well, we're reading these. Okay, well, we'll try these. And then we would read for those again and just kind of see what happens and hope for the best. But I didn't really try to do anything to prepare for it because honestly, I really didn't know what Kenny was going to have to do or say just because I just had an audition packet, so it's like I just knew he was a family man and whatnot. And I mean, that's not much of a stretch for me. I'm a family man and I like doing a Southern accent. So for me, it was just, trying to listen well and take their direction because they know what they need. So I just try to show up and be amenable to what they want, which I think is, part of the battle. I had it pretty well in hand what he sounded like. I don't generally, unless I really don't know where I was, I might ask for reference, which is just any previous recording that we would have, or something like that. But no, not really. I mean, I just kind of turn it on and off. It's just kind of like a switch. And no, I wouldn't really do anything to psych myself up or anything like that. The dialogue, the script does that for me well enough, So, I don't know. I might like goof around with them in Kenny's voice or something like that, but it's not to psych myself up or anything. It might just be to be like, they're going to tell me if I'm wrong.
All right, fair enough then. Our next question is from Alex the Geography Bird, which asks... Right on. Yeah. Which asks, can we expect to see you play the part of more champions in future League of Legends expansions?
I hope so, but I don't know. We audition for them when they come in, and I read for them and do the best I can. I couldn't say if I have been cast as one and I'm waiting in the ether to either record it or waiting for it to come out. I wouldn't be able to say. Yeah. I don't know. So, not that I know of. But yeah, I hope so. I mean, I love working for Riot. They're always fun and easygoing, and the sessions are always a lot of fun. So I hope so. Keep your fingers crossed. Post on their forums how much you want to hear me. That Varys needs a new skin, and he needs to say a bunch of different stuff.
Our next question is from Gives Me Cookies. Adding Z's instead of S's. Fair enough.
You mean Z's? There's another one. Z and Z. There's another one.
Which the question is, were there any characters you auditioned for that you didn't get the part of but were offered a different role instead?
Yes, but not because I didn't read the other role and they just... Well, yeah, kinda. There was a time, and I won't be too specific, but there was a time where I auditioned for a part and it was between me and another guy, and it was really, really, really close, and I did not get the part. And then when I showed up for the session, I was playing a different character. They handed me one that I had not read. And I was like, I don't know that there's any reference for this because I don't think I ever auditioned it. And they're all, no, you didn't. But we were really pissed because we wanted you for so-and-so, and like it didn't go your way. So we just gave you this one. Okay, so what does he sound like? So that's happened once or twice, but no, usually it's like you would get the part that you auditioned for, or you would get nothing and just kind of deal with it. Just depends. But yeah, that has actually happened, which is bizarre, but yes.
All right, then. Our next question is from Mark Nuts 1997.
Yeah. I wonder when he was born.
I have no idea. And the question is, have there been any times that you've been in a situation and quoted the character you voiced?
Only a little bit. And only with Melissa Hutchison. Sometimes we do back and forth, but mostly we just speak, weird gibberish language because we both worked on the same toy. So sometimes, but not very often. I'm much more likely to quote The Simpsons or quote some weird obscure movie that I don't actually know what it's from, or a TV show or a song lyric, than to quote like a character. Because anybody that I'd be talking to probably has no idea what I'm talking about. So I would like quote Kenny or say something and they'd be like, I don't know what that is. So, not usually.
But there's always those people that ask, like, do you say stuff that the character would never say?
Sometimes, I mean, I do a lot of educational toys too, like for Leapfrog and stuff like that. And oftentimes in sessions, I will say things that are incredibly inappropriate for the toy, just because it's me and the audio lead sitting there and cracking each other up. Because usually the way that we'll record those is I'll have a screen, which is very unlike most recording situations. I'll have a screen that just has one or two lines up there. And there was a time when often, one director that I used to work with would often say like, the engineer's name was Ben at the time. And they would be like, there'd be a line that would lead into it or a word that would lead in. And the audio lead would say something like, Ben's mom, and we'd be like, fat, or something like would be the word that would come up. And we would do that quite often and sort of just say really inappropriate things in that sort of like, when you're playing a game, touch this button to repeat a question, just very upbeat and chipper sort of thing, but saying something really inappropriate, which is quite fun for us in that situation.
Right then, our next question is from Triple Trouble 23, which says, what voice have you had the most fun doing?
The most fun, honestly, that I've had doing is probably for that toy, just because it is super. I get to do basically whatever I want, and there have been a lot of times where we've crammed some really weird, bizarre stuff in there, just because it makes us laugh, and then it might make it into the product, So that's a lot of fun. But I have fun kind of doing everything, for the most part, everything that I get to do is pretty fun. Some things are really boring and dry, but, it's a fun job. So it's the people that, are that work in advertising or that work in game design or toy development or something like that are generally people that were, artists, creative types, just fun people to work with. So for the most part, it's fun. I enjoyed doing Kenny, aside from the really dark shit, but it was still a fun character to be because he would get to say things that were kind of fun and inappropriate, or he'd get to be really mad and direct with people, which is fun, All
right, then our next question is from Epic Conquest.
Right on.
Yeah. Which asks, what character would you consider yourself well known for?
Probably Kenny. That's probably best known for that. I haven't done a lot of stuff that really stands out, and a lot of the things that I've done that might be higher profile, you would never know that it was me, which I'm cool with, Yeah, so a lot of the stuff that I've done, probably the most recognizable would be Kenny. And that's just because, people seem to care and pay attention and seem to appreciate the part, or at least got attention. So that'd be the one.
Yeah. But no. Well, I heard at some point that there was a rewritten part for the sake of Kenny in episode 5.
Yes, that is true. So originally when we recorded episode 5, it was very, very clear that Kenny was dead. I had all kinds of death audio, being strangled and torn to pieces and all kinds of horrible stuff. And then we came back for pickups. A lot of the final scenes had been rewritten so that my fate, or Kenny's fate, was more ambiguous. And so there were a lot more somber reads in terms of how Kenny kind of delivers his last, or how I deliver Kenny's last few lines to Lee, before he either pushes him in the gate or falls through the ceiling, just in terms of, you do it because it's right, and this is, you just don't do something, you got to, even if it's hard, you got to do it, whatever the line was. My memory sucks. But yes, it was much more clear that, all of that death audio was, was there, that was not used. And it was really funny because I remember at the rap party, one of the directors came up to me and said, I erased all of Kenny's death audio. I erased all of it. I erased it all. And I told that to Jory from the engineer, and he's like, I still have it. Of course he does. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, no, I guess they didn't use they said that Kenny's fate would be explored. I honestly don't know what that means. So, but if I did know what it meant, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, you couldn't say.
I would say
unfortunately.
I don't know what that means because I'm a liar.
With
I
a
lie for a
smug
living.
face of, oh, I don't know anything. They haven't contacted
Thank
me.
Thank God I don't have a camera in front of me. No, no, I can't say anything. I hope Kenny returns, but who knows?
Well, he did make an appearance in 400 Days.
Yeah, just a little quick shot. I didn't record it.
Of
I didn't
you,
record it.
of Kenny and Duck at the gas station, of which kind of explains, well, which was in episode 1. I'm gonna get really nerdy here because I've played the game so many times. Where Kenny is explaining that Duck was grabbed by a walker at the gas station. To Lee at Herschel's farm.
Yes. But he
And I
wasn't
think-
bitten.
No, he wasn't bitten until episode 3. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then he was clearly bitten.
How would you like? Because we were going back to what was it? The day with an interview with Dave Fenoy. That he was, well, obviously crying about the final scene with Lee and Clementine. Was there a moment when you were crying where it was the end of Duck, despite how annoying he was?
Yeah, no, I mean, he was, he was my kid. I didn't know how annoying he was. I didn't hear anything that Duck said ever. You know what I mean? I had barely played the game myself. So, for me, I just had to play it that this is your son, and you either have to, spoilers, you either have to do him in or have Lee do him in,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I had to play that as Kenny and in the scene, I can't like detach and be all, oh, this kid's so irritating. I'm not going to be worked up about it. But yeah, no, I still have to perform it. So.
All right, our next question is from iRhino HD.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a thing.
That is the thing. Why not?
The question is, what type of characters do you prefer to voice the most? Good guys or bad guys?
They're fun for different reasons. I think any character that's well written and sort of well thought out, then, I mean, that is probably preferable to either sort of like archetype good guy, archetype bad guy. Playing a guy that kind of is like an anti-hero or sort of, that's not quite good, not quite bad, or something that's just well written that's got like a basis to it. You know what I mean? As opposed to just like, I'm as good as they come, or I'm as evil as they come. It's much more fun to be a well-rounded character. But either one, I mean, good guys are pretty fun. Bad guys are more fun.
Well, I guess for the sake of Kenny, because you had two sides to him, if you go on the good side, of course, he'll be nice to you. If you go on to the bad side, he'll be an absolute dick to you. So I guess...
Yeah, well, he wasn't a bad guy, though. I mean, he was still like a good guy. Just a dick. Exactly.
But I guess, like, did you have more fun being nice, or did you have more fun being a dick?
I had a lot more fun with, like, the final choices that were, like, yeah, we weren't friends, and so, yeah, you're just going to die, and whatever, it's your problem. I had more fun with those than, like, I know we had our differences, but I'm going to bring you on my boat.
Yeah.
Those were not quite as fun. Those were kind of like, sure, I'll bring you on the boat. But the ones where it was kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen to you. I'm going to be on a boat. That was sort of, those were fun, more fun for me. I thought they were more like, ooh, man, that's mean. The boat. Yeah. God damn it. I needed that boat.
You did need that boat.
That's
and then
all.
and then it was stolen by old people. And then if you played 400 Days, two of them are at a gas station. Didn't go very far then.
That's all he had to live for was that boat.
Yeah. After just losing a son and a wife.
Yeah, in one fell swoop, in like the space of 30 seconds. That's pretty tough.
That was, well, it's like what I said with Carly. It was one of those moments when your mouth just drops, thinking, "What just happened?"
I think it was. I don't remember whose video it was. It might have been like the Angry Brit, or whoever video was, but he was playing it. Was looking at something else, and then all of a sudden Lily shoots Carly in the face. It's like, oh my god! It just flipped out. Hilarious. That was the first time I saw it. I didn't know kind of what played out. I watched that video. I was like, I mean, I knew like that Lily was gonna kill somebody because I had recorded that episode and they had kind of said Lily's gonna blow somebody up, shoot somebody in the face right now, but we're not sure who yet. So it was that was something I knew about, but the way it played out, I was really surprised and shocked by.
Yeah. But it's I guess that's the benefit of voice acting. Well, I guess the charm of it is the fact that because you don't know what the final product is, and when you actually see it, you're thinking, so that's how it actually ended out.
Yeah, no, and I mean that's a fine point too. Is it's like you work on a game and it's announced and you're in it and stuff like that, and you're kind of like, I don't know if I really want to talk about it because it could suck, and then
Yeah.
it comes out and it's like people like it and you're like, yay, because I have no idea. I mean, I recorded my parts and I thought they were okay. I don't know, but I don't know what anybody else did. I don't know that the story works or anything like that. It's just a weird, it's the way just kind of games work. We just have no idea until it comes out. And because even if the voice is good, it's like if it doesn't play well, then it's like everybody's going to be like, yeah, it's terrible. Yeah, that one guy sounded good, but and you're never really going to know until you get it or see it or read a review or something. So it's such a kind of fingers crossed. I hope it doesn't suck.
Right, our next question is from Origin Man 3346, which asks, "What was the recording process like for SimCity 2013?"
Yeah, that was weird. Just because oftentimes we would have to do like ADR, like dialogue replacement, where we have to match a moving character, like a character that has like emotion or something like that, and we would have to say the Simlish gibberish, in time with their emotion to make it kind of work and make sense. And the thing about that too is there were these three huge sort of documents stapled together. There was like a short one, a medium one, and a long one of different phrase lengths of Simlish words, phrases put together. And they'd just be like, just go through, skip somewhere in the middle so that we're not all saying the same phrases, and then just say some of the short ones, say some of the medium ones, say some of the long ones, and you can improvise and do other stuff. You can't say this, you can't say that, you can't say this. And it was just one of those things where, I mean, for me, it's just an extra sort of an extra hurdle where you have to get the emotion across. You also have to read something that does not make sense to you because it's not words, it's non-speech. Well, it's speech, but it's not a language that I understand. So that was challenging. Honestly, it's not something I'm terribly good at. I don't get hired to do that non-speech stuff too often, but it's not my favorite thing to do just because it is kind of extra challenging. But I like a challenge and it's fun to get to do something different. But it's a difficult process. It's not super easy.
That's fair enough then. All right, so we have just two more questions left, and this one is from Cosplayer Crusher, who asked, "Does Dow attend to conventions?"
I do attend conventions. I've been to a few. It depends on, I don't get asked to do them very often, but I'm, willing and able to go. Yeah, they're fun. I would love to go to bigger ones. Like I would love to go to Comic-Con or, something like that. It just, I haven't, but maybe this year, I don't know, or next year. That would be fun. I would love to go to them just because it's fun to sit and meet people that like what you do. It's very different than like reading YouTube comments on the internet, because when you meet people face to face, they generally don't say like you're the worst voice talent I've ever seen or anything like that. So it's
Of course not.
nice to meet people in person. Yeah, because they're like, "Whoa, you're pretty good." Thank you. It's fun, and it's definitely something that we are getting asked to do more and more and more, and that it's become kind of something that we can do, as kind of a job, which is cool.
All right, our final question is from me, and it's not a serious one. Is Kenny confirmed for The Walking Dead season 2?
I wish that I could tell you. I cannot tell you. I actually, I don't know. which is a terrible answer, but it's true. I don't
I
know.
wasn't expecting a serious answer, don't worry.
Yeah, maybe, maybe not. No, I wish I knew. Be fun.
That's fair enough then. Well, that's all the questions we have for you, unfortunately, Gavin. Have you had
Oh,
fun?
that's all right. Yes, I have. I've had a lot of fun,
That's
Callum.
alright then.
Pronounced
Hey, you said it right
pronounced
that time.
correctly. I did.
Now, there is something I do want to show you actually. Switch to Skype and turn my webcam on.
Uh-oh. Here it comes.
Uh-oh. And you're going to see me. Hey!
Hey,
You can see
hi.
British lad. But there is a drawing
Oh,
of
that's
Kenny.
awesome. Did you do that?
Yes, I did.
Is that charcoals? That looks great.
No, it's just a simple pencil drawing.
Nice. Yeah, please send it to me.
Alright, so that's all the questions we have for you today, Gavin. I
Cool.
hope, well, we may get you back here again. If
Sure, anytime. I'm happy to.
maybe you can tag along to a Walking Dead Let's Play or something like that.
Sure, yeah.
And also, actually, do you have anything to say before we go, Gavin?
Oh, just thanks for having me. Thanks for listening and thanks for playing games that I worked on.
Do you have any shout outs to make? Like, follow me on Facebook, follow me on
You
Twitter.
can, yeah, you can follow me on Facebook at Gavin Hammond VO. You can follow me on Instagram at Gavin Hammond, and you can follow me on Twitter at Gavin Hammond. And my name is spelled GavinHammon. Proper English name, just as you'd expect it to be spelled.
That's alright then. Just to make life easier, I'll link it down in the description below, just to make life easier. And I'll also link that drawing on DeviantArt in the description below. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And like, rate, and subscribe, and all that good jazz, and see you guys in the next video.